Okay. Well, hi everyone. Welcome back to the Author's Tea. We're going to try this again. I am Kristen R. Harris, and I am your host and creator of the Author's Tea. We're on a little bit later than we're usually on because we had some technical difficulties, but thank you guys so much for coming back and joining us. Hopefully, this broadcast will come over and be okay. I'm super excited to be here this evening. I have a special guest, but before I get to introducing you to who she is and what she does, I just want to explain to you, for those who have never seen the Author's Tea, what the Author's Tea is. This is a platform where women authors can come and share their stories. They can come and spill the tea. This is why we have our teacups on their books and things. And so I know some amazing, amazing female authors, and I want you to know them as well. And so, excuse me, without further ado, because we're already super behind and late in our interview, I want to introduce you to my guest tonight. Her name is Stephanie A. Roberts. I won't forget the A because I know how it is. I'm the same way about that R in my name. I met Stephanie, I think it was back in 2007. We were working on our masters together. We were in the same program. And so I met her. She was a beautiful soul then. She's a beautiful soul now. And I am so honored that she is here on the Author's Tea with me tonight. So, hey, Stephanie.
Hey, Kristen. What's up, girl?
Nothing much. So tell us a little bit about who Stephanie is and what she does.
Well, I am Stephanie A. Roberts. Thank you so much, Kristen, for having me. I am honored and humbled to be on the Author's Tea tonight. It is really a joy to be on with you. But I am Stephanie A. Roberts, educational consultant, author, teen growth and development coach, and youth life skills coach. I am also the author of 2 books, The ABCs of Commanding Your Day, and Pieces of a Poet, which we are actually discussing tonight. 17 years as a real estate broker. I've been in the educational field now about 13 years, 12 or 13 years. I'm losing count right now. And just here really to make a difference in the lives of this next generation. I am also the CEO and founder of Open Your Mind, LLC, an educational consulting firm that partners with schools, churches, community organizations, and mentor groups, working with young people between the ages of 12 and 21, providing youth with the academic tools, the financial strategies, and life skills to live a powerful, productive, and passionate life. And to sum it all up, I'm just trying to help the people.
I love it. I love it. Blessings to you for helping the people. Well, as Stephanie said, she is the author of Pieces of a Poet. And this is the book that we will be discussing today. Stephanie, as I told you earlier, I absolutely loved your story. I loved all the nostalgia that it sparked in my life and how it took me back to those days when I was younger. And I was in the house with my mom. And she would be gone to work, and she gave us very strict instructions that we should not open the door no matter who came to the door. So people would be on the other side. And it's funny. I tell my kids that, and they'll open the door for grandma. They don't leave grandma on the other side. See, I left grandma on the other side. My kids are like, but it's grandma. But I said for no one, so.
Exactly.
But
and that includes grandma.
Yeah, that includes grandma. So I really, really enjoy reading your story, and I want to get right into everything that you shared. Now, real briefly, I know that when you talk about in the beginning of the book that you had plans to pen just a book of poetry, but you ended up with this entire memoir. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Absolutely. It started out with just writing poems, growing up in the church, being asked on numerous occasions to either sing a solo, be an MC, can you read a poem? And so I kind of embraced the passion of writing poems. And so I started with 2 or 3 poems, then I added on. So I said, well, you know what? I really enjoy this. Why not create a book of poems? And one of my poems that I had actually written was called Pieces of a Poet. So I said that would be a great title. I'll get this poetry book together. I started adding one piece, another piece. Before you know it, I had over 25 poems. And freeze frame, pause, stop. God said, no, no, my child, that is not the vision. That is not clear. And it was put on hold. Now, put on hold, I'm thinking because of life. Things are happening. I'm busy with my job, taking on new endeavors. But God was not putting it on hold because of things that I was doing. It was his ultimate big picture divine plan that he had for the book, not necessarily for motivation and inspiration, but to actually become life changing with helping those who may be going through or have gone through some of the same situations that I actually persevered and came out triumphant with.
Wow. And you know what? Not just helping other people, but I think helping you as well. Would you agree?
I would totally agree. I would say that it was healing first before it was even penned in the book, because there were things that I did not know until God began to reveal them one piece at a time. It was not as if I had forgotten, but I just think I went through them and kept going and kept moving. And one piece at a time, as one piece fit in one area, the other piece fit in the other area. And so it was really cleansing, a lot of healing, a lot of different misconceptions, a lot of hidden things within my family, a lot of tradition, a lot of curses were broken afterwards, of course. But it was definitely, I would agree with you, it was help to me first before I was able to provide it as a tool to help others.
Wow. Okay, so I want to go back to the beginning before Stephanie was born. And in the book, well, when you give your synopsis of the book, should I say, you say that it chronicles a personal story of sacrifice, struggle, strength, and servanthood as a product of a one night stand. Tell me a little bit about the one night stand.
Most of us may know what a one night stand is. It is when you are with someone only one time and you both go your separate ways. And so I'm a product of a one night stand. My mother and father were not in a relationship together. As young people will say today, they actually hooked up once and my mom got pregnant. My dad had a girlfriend and the girlfriend was not my mom. They knew each other from high school. They had attended the same high school, so they knew of each other, but not necessarily knowing each other on a friend level or anything like that. They didn't have classes together. My mom admired him. And I think there had to have been some form of chemistry that was connected between the two. And they were leaving a basketball game and encountered one another. And he asked her if she needed a ride home. As a detour to giving her a ride home, one thing led to another. They ended up in the Forest Preserve in the South suburban area. They did the do. He took her home, and months later, she discovered that she was pregnant, and they had only been together one time. And so, a one night stand may be a cliche, but for me, it was my reality. And as a result, I'm here today speaking with you.
Wow. Wow. So I was reading that story and I was just like, oh my God. It's so funny when you read someone's story and you know them, because of course, I didn't know that story about you, but I appreciated the transparency of the story. Do you think that from that moment, well, okay, well, let me ask you this. So when your mom finds out she's pregnant and she goes to the dad, which is your dad, whom she doesn't have a relationship with, how does he respond?
He responded in an interesting way. And since I've been an adult, we've had an opportunity to talk about his response. And we've actually laughed about it now because it's so many years later. But when she did approach him, he said, "Get out of here." And what was so interesting, he was actually giving her a ride. She said, I wanted to talk to you. And I think he thought it was going to be a part two of what had transpired at the forest preserve, when in all actuality, she shared with him that she was pregnant. Now, mind you, this is
you already got part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, you got 18 years plus of this now, brother. But when she shared that with him, he immediately says, well, no, that's not my baby. I was only with you one time. You better get out of here. And not only sharing that with her in such a cruel way, but then he pulled over to the side and he put her out of his car.
Wow.
He pulled over to the side and put her out of his car. And a gentleman by the name of Mike Alexander, which he had no idea until the last 10 years when we've had a discussion. I was always wondering why he was so nurturing in high school. He was a dean at our school. Well, he kind of worked at Bloom High School, and he was a track official. And I ran track all 4 years in high school. And he was always very caring. If I needed a ride or, kind of like that additional father figure, but I never knew that he I knew he knew my mom and her siblings, but I never knew that he was the one who actually picked her up after my dad had dropped her off on the side. So he consoled my mom and gave my mom a ride home and told her that it would be okay.
Wow. So do you think you carried any of that rejection through your life that you received initially from your father? Because I've had a lot of conversations, even on the author's tea. A lot of women in their books have this rejection. Unfortunately, it's very common in our culture for men to abandon the children or reject them. And so I see a lot of rejection issues that the women are dealing with. Do you feel like you carried any of that through life? And I know we'll get to the point where you get back to your dad, and we'll get to that in a second, but do you think you carried any of those pieces of rejection with you, or did you see it manifest in any way in your life?
I would probably say yes, subconsciously, because I wasn't aware of any of this until I was 12. So after my mom conceived me, she was pregnant with me at 16 and she delivered me at 17. 2 years later, she married my stepfather, Lawrence Roberts. They got married. So she was 19 when they got married, and they conceived my brother, Lawrence. And then he adopted me. So the last name I have right now to date is Stephanie Ann Roberts, which is my stepfather's last name. So my mother had my original birth certificate expunged. Although there are copies lingering around, my initial birth certificate said father unknown, but I have carried the last name Roberts all of my life. So I wasn't aware of my biological father rejecting me, turning me away, not even knowing that Lawrence Roberts was not my father until I was 12 years old. So I may possibly say subconsciously, after finding out the details of Lawrence Roberts not being my biological father and my biological father, Lamont, actually being my father. So I would probably say subconsciously, but not in reality, because I had numerous father figures. So I had 3 generations of men daily from the time I was born, really up until my adulthood. I had my great-grandfather, who I saw every day, my grandfather, and my mom's younger brother. So there was not a void. And then I had my stepdad, who I thought all along was my biological father.
Wow. So I want to shift gears from your father to your mother, because in your book, you speak very candidly about the struggles that you feel like you saw your mother go through as a single mom. Even before, I guess, your stepfather, after your stepfather, after their short-lived marriage. You felt like your mother, like so many other single mothers have to do, she had to make the tough decision of working hard to provide for her children, which was you and your brother, and being away from the home most of the time, or spending more time with the children, being able to, cultivate and nurture them, but finding herself struggling. And so your mother, she chose the work approach, like, and she was a workaholic. Like, I think at some point she had like multiple jobs. Like, she just always had a
Yes.
job. And
Yes.
you feel like, your mom wasn't there, and she missed out on so many key things.
Yes.
And honestly, as I read the story, and this is just my perception as the reader, it seemed like throughout maybe your childhood and your teenage years that you harbored some resentment towards her because of that choice. Am I accurate in that?
I would say absolutely so. And the healing, to be perfectly honest, I would say that I'm at the latter part of the healing process, even as a 50-year-old woman. So you are absolutely correct. I felt like I was your firstborn. You know the struggles of me coming into this world, and working was never an issue. I don't think that was the issue. I think just finding time to spend time. So being here with us, I mean, from, leaving our home when it was pitch dark at 5 a.m., dropping us off at my grandparents' house, picking us up at 9 or 10 o'clock at night when it's pitch dark, just so we can sleep in our own beds. And I just felt like I can see that. But at some stage, from your teens to your 20s to your 30s, that some shifts should be made. And she did. She made those choices. And I do want to clarify. I love my mom. She's very smart, bright, intelligent, gifted. She was an excellent provider, very, very giving. She's very mild-mannered, and things of that nature. She's a great person. But to this day, her and I still have these conversations when I share with her, you can be a great person, but not necessarily be a good mom. And so from my perspective, I feel like some of those real crucial stages in growing up as an adolescent Black girl, African-American adolescent, my mom was not there. And so I'm thankful for those rams in the bushes. That there were other women who stepped in to take those roles. And I just felt like oftentimes she chose work over us, even when there was an opportunity. We lived in nice homes, lovely apartments, great furniture, but I felt like sometimes that's not necessary. We needed you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I will say that the resentment began in my 30s. There was
I
no
like the way
that.
I like the way you that piece was entitled Mixed Priorities, because it wasn't like the priorities were wrong, but they were just all shifted and maybe out of place at times. You as an educator today, now that you're in the education profession, what would you advise single mothers of the students that you serve in those situations? Because I'm sure you see a lot of this in the population that you serve. Like, what would you advise single moms who are torn, who are struggling? Like, you have to work, you got to make the ends meet, but at the same time, these children are in need of what their mother can offer.
I share, so not necessarily what I would share as an educator. I do share with a lot of parents that you have to create a balance between being a provider and being present. Oftentimes, parents have the Jordans and they're getting their girls' nails done, the hair done, they have on the nice gear, they have a big home, but your presence means more than presence. And oftentimes, they don't really see the difference. They feel like, well, my kid lives in a great home. We're in a good neighborhood. I provide everything that they need, especially, I believe, more so now than when I was coming up. Parents need to be present. We didn't have social media. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have computers. And we had more parental and community involvement. Kids don't have that much anymore. So my advice to parents today is always balance out providing with your presence. Because if I'm investing more in your child and I have them for 10 months than you are, then something is wrong with that picture. If I am actually listening to them, I'm giving them advice, suggestions, strategies, tools, nursing them, hearing those conversations about the lack thereof, with love, attention, etc. from home, then I'm a living witness that it will come back to haunt you, and not necessarily in a good way. So balance that provider piece with being present, actively involved, no different than any other relationship.
I like that. I like that. Balance that provider with your presence. So having this relationship with your mom where you felt like, she wasn't there, she was providing, but she wasn't necessarily present. In reading your story later on in life, you're 21 now, and you find yourself in a place where you have to care for your mom.
Yes,
And there's some details that come out where, because she was, I guess, sick, or she had gotten sick, but the details later come out that that's not the truthful story. And we'll leave that for the people to read the book. But how easy was it for you to step up and accept that responsibility, knowing how you felt that she wasn't necessarily present for you, that she had provided for you? Was that easy to say yes, or did you struggle with that?
I had absolutely no struggle with it whatsoever, because I grew up with the old school mindset. Regardless, she is still yet my mother. And so the way the cards were laid out, it happened so fast. My grandparents at the time were living in Seattle, Washington. Who else could have stepped in? My brother was at Northern Illinois University and he was doing his own thing. That was not even on his agenda.
And boys are not concerned. They're like, whatever.
He was pretty much whatever. So I really didn't think twice about caring for her. Again, I think it was a delay in my true emotions and feelings until I got to my 30s. I didn't think twice. And if I had to do it all over again, I would do the same thing. I don't think I would change. I still think I would step up, because at the end of the day, she is my mom. And the Bible says, honor and obey your mother and father, that your days on this earth may be long. And I've learned in this journey that God can handle people better than we can. And so, some of the things that she still now struggles with, it's as a result of some of those choices, just like us all. We now have hurdles that we have placed in front of ourselves based upon decisions and choices we made years ago. So, to answer your question, I would do it again. And did I have any hesitation? Or no, I did not. No, I did it not.
Well, I think that's very admirable of you, because I could see me having some hesitation. I actually had some struggles with my mom coming up, and maybe at 21 it would not have been as easy for me as it is now at 38 to jump in. I mean, now of course I'm much more mature and wiser in my ways, but at 21 I may have still been, and that it could be because my resentment, the onset of my resentment came a bit earlier for me. And so I was still in my moment and still working out my pieces in my early 20s. And we're in a place of resolve now. So, but I commend you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
As I'm reading the story, I read that there was times when you were writing this book that things would come back to you that you kind of had blocked out, or you didn't even remember.
Yes.
And one particular piece is, these incidences of sexual misconduct.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you, I really loved how your story was written when you talked about this piece. One was you were very open, very transparent, and very, very, I guess you took responsibility for your actions even in this. And so you talk about,
Yeah.
I guess it was your cousins and what they did to you, but you turned around and did the same thing to one of your cousins.
Yes.
And I want you to speak on like what happened years later when you guys were able to reconcile and really talk about this, because I feel like that's so key.
Yeah.
Again, just like the whole father abandonment, I have sat down on this author's tea with so many women, and almost all of them have stories of some type of sexual abuse.
Yes.
Just like almost all of them have some type of daddy issue stories. So I really want to take a minute to hear, like, what did that feel like for you, or how did it come about, especially being the victim and the, I don't want to call you a predator, but you know, the victim and the aggressor, I guess.
Yeah.
Tell me what that looked like, what that place of reconciliation looked like.
It really didn't take place until about 6 years ago, about 5 or 6 years ago. So I was molested and sexually, inappropriately touched sexually by three of my cousins. Two were brothers. And this all kind of transpired in that 78, 79, 1978, 1979, when my mom was not there. And I'm not saying that that's an excuse, but I'm just saying that I think during that time it was limited supervision, etc. And so I had no one to talk to, because back then families didn't talk as much as we do now about very important issues and things of that nature. So I just felt like, oh my goodness, this is happening to me. This is horrible. I don't feel good each time we go to their house. And I hated the words, "You kids go play." To this,
Oh no.
does something to me when I heard that. And so that happening, and it happened with my cousin and I, where I was the aggressor during that same time frame shortly thereafter. And it wasn't that I didn't know that it was wrong, but my grandparents have a huge house. And so I'm the eldest of 20 grandchildren, now 20. Back then, I think there were only 8 or maybe 10 of us at the time. And they love to play hide and seek in my grandparents' home. And so me being the oldest the oldest grandchild, I knew all of the hiding places where no one could actually find you in that home. And when I hid in that spot, I'm like, nobody is going to be here. So when time is called out, guess what? I'm going to be the winner. I'm the oldest. I'm going to be the bomb.com, even though that term wasn't out back then. And my younger cousin came in. And when my younger cousin came in, that's when I touched him inappropriately. And it happened probably about 3 or 4 times at my grandparents' home. And it got to the point where I saw this happening to me every time I went to my one cousin's house. And I'm like, something is just not right with this. And during that same year, I accepted Christ as my personal savior. I got baptized, and just a lot of things were happening during that time. Shortly after that, it was the blizzard of 79. And so I kind of like, it was just uncomfortable with me. I knew that it was wrong. He never said anything. I never said anything. And in fact, as we grew older, we became very close, like hanging buddies. I traveled with Ricky Dillard, a New Generation. He and his sister, I would always get them in concerts. They came to all the rehearsals, and we were very close once we hit those 20s, never having a conversation. I had never told it had never come out of my mouth until 6 years ago. And it came out of my mouth. I think I had suppressed it. We actually had a conversation about it because he sent me a message on Messenger, Facebook Messenger. And the message, it was a long message. And then the second message said something like, I pray that God strengthens you, or I pray for you, or something like that. So I only saw the bottom portion of the message. I didn't see the long portion of the instant message. The long portion said, I love you, cousin. I forgive you for what you did to me when we were children in our grandparents' house several times. And I know that someone must have hurt you the same way because, you would not have done that. I pray, God. So he sent this in a message. So I reached out to him. He didn't answer. I reached out to his wife. And then he and I ended up having a 2-hour conversation and talking about the things that has happened and how it affected his life that I never knew. Neither one of us had never, ever spoke about it growing up as a child. I never told anybody. It never even came out of my mouth until 6 years ago.
Why
we
is
had
that?
a conversation. I think for myself that I looked at it as a hurdle. The behavior had stopped as far as my cousins doing it to me because we had gotten older. I had not taken it any farther with my cousin. I started being the helper in the kitchen, and I refrained from even playing with any of my cousins. And so that was something that I shared with my family. You should have noticed the shift. And I had been the helper from that point on up until my adult life. So if you look at any family videos, from that point on, you never saw me playing with the kids ever again, because I knew that was wrong. And I'd asked God, 6 years ago when he brought it to me, Lord, please allow him to be healed from that, because he said that it did hinder him throughout life. But I never knew because we never talked about it. So I think I personally just suppressed it. I never mentioned it to one single soul. And if I would have, my family was not a family who talked about anything. They prayed about everything. And I have aunts who have been molested by my grandfather's brothers. They never talked about it until the uncles died. Never mentioned it.
So knowing that about your family, how has you writing this book impacted your family? Like, how did they feel about that?
Well, initially, many of them, some of them were angry. Some of them were shocked. Some of them were like, why didn't you tell me? And I can't say why I didn't tell anyone. I think initially because my mom wasn't there, she would have been the person I told. My aunt, who was living in the house at the time, I was 10. No, she was gone. I was 10. She was 20. So she was gone away to college. I didn't have anyone who I could have, like my daughter and I, we talk about everything. And when I say everything, I do mean everything. But I didn't have that person to really talk to. But my family, I think it has caused them to take some inner looks. I talked about the book 4 years ago. I published it in 2018, but I talked about it in maybe it was 2016. So that would have been 3 years ago. Well, I have this book and, this is what I'm sharing. It's my story. So it may include many of you, but you can't tell me that I can't tell my story. My story has been healing for me, and I want my story to be healing for other people. But initially, they were upset because we're a Christian family. My grandfather's a Baptist pastor. My uncle is a pastor. My mother is an evangelist. Okay, Stephanie, you were a deacon. So it's that whole church traditional thing. We hide it. What goes on in this house stays in this house.
Yeah.
So
I'm happy you had the courage to tell it, because I do believe, and I teach this to a lot of the people who come through the Scribe Tribe. I mean, your story has the power to help somebody else, to deliver them, and keeping it locked up inside of you is not helping you, and it's definitely not helping the slew of people who God has waiting to read that story so that they can get to their healing. So I commend you for your courage to share, because it's not easy when you have those secrets that people they usually just sweep under the rug. And it's like, again, this is our family business. Why you want to put that out for the world to see? I'm going to tell you, I've written 6 books to date, and in each one of my books is some stuff in there, like in all of them. And I know that it makes my family uncomfortable, but like you said, this is my story. And if you didn't want me to tell it, you shouldn't have done it to me. You gave me the power when you did it to me. Like now it becomes my story. So I commend you for that. Now I want to shift gears, because I know a big piece of your story is piece number 4, and that's finding your father. I want to tell you, that story I think is one of my favorite pieces in the book, because to imagine, I mean, I had my visuals going. I was imagining this 11, 12-year-old little girl on her quest to find her daddy, and she's in the phone book. She's calling
Yes.
all the Parkers.
Yes.
She's running around. So I'm imagining you and your friend running around to all these buildings in the apartment complex trying to find this name so you can get the number to your dad. And finally, all your hard work pays off. And I thought that was such a remarkable story. And of course, you know, it may be easier these days, you know, with the internet and everything. But the fact that you did not let what I would think should stop an 11-year-old or 12-year-old. Like, you were determined. You came home from school, dropped your backpack, and you and your friend were off to go find your father. And so he shows up. And when I read it, I don't know if maybe there's some pieces missing, but it seems like it was like a seamless transition. Like
it really was. It was. It was very seamless. And it's interesting you would say that. So my girlfriend who helped me find my father, her name is Kelly Porter. Mm-hmm. Kelly Porter Harrington. Now, we are still friends to this day. And, you know, we would laugh growing up saying, girl, I can't believe I helped you find your father. You know, it's real interesting. But she has no idea how she will forever have a precious spot in my heart. And it was seamless. I love that. Let me tell you why it was seamless. It was seamless because my father had no ill feeling whatsoever. So the way it was told to me was that, your father didn't want to be bothered with you and the grandmother. So I had to take in my adult life, we laugh about it now. He and I, we talk about it. We go to lunch. In fact, we're doing lunch this coming Saturday at the Big Apple, which I'm not too fond of the Big Apple, but he goes there every Saturday. So it is what it is. But it was seamless because he now is in his 30s and every single one of my siblings knew about me. Mm. They knew who I was. They knew that I was born the day, my birthday was the day after his birthday. His is September 9th, mine is September 10th. They knew details about me, which meant he had been talking about me, to others. And when he came, it was weird. It was really interesting because now, this guy I've been searching for, he walks into our apartment complex and, he hugs me. He says, "Oh my goodness, you look like my mom." And then he asked me to oil his scalp. I'm like,
I cracked up at that. I thought that was so funny.
I'm like, oh, but
I don't even know you, and you want me all up in your head.
Look, yes. But not knowing that he and my mom had a couple of conversations prior to him coming over. I found that out years later. They'd had a couple conversations before getting there, but he was just an absolute gentleman. It was like surreal to actually see this person that I had been seeking and searching for. And if you've ever been to Marcus Theater near our home, it is the apartment complex right next door to Marcus Theater.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That is the apartment. Yes, that is the apartment complex where we lived at the time. So just imagining going through every single building and it was nothing but God. And I don't know if he's still living. His name is Melvin Pickett. He was the gentleman we saw in the grocery store, and he gave my mother my dad's phone number. So I am forever grateful to him as well, because my story is not the story of most women. Most women, they don't know who their father is, and their father is out there. They never reunite. They never connect. What I can say, the 12 years without him is nothing compared to the 38 years that I've had with him. Because Lord knows that adolescent age of 12, my father stepped in right on time. Now, he has not given me a lot financially. He and I argue over the $500 he says he gave me in college, but hey, he said he gave it to me. But every single important moment in my life, my dad was there. You said you and I got our masters together. My mom was not there because she chose to go to church, but my dad was right there. So there has not been a moment that was important in my life that my dad was not there for me. So I share with women that there is hope, but there has to be some cooperation somewhere from family members. Had it not been for my grandmother looking me in the eye while we were snapping those beans at 11811 South Wallace in that basement, ooh, you look just like your daddy. You look just like Lamont. I'm like, Lamont, the only Lamont I know is on Sanford and Sons. So who is she talking about? And left. She left me hanging just like that. No other information. I'm saying to myself, who the heck is Lamont? I'm going to bed now. My stomach all nervous. I'm in fourth grade. She's told me this information. I'm confused. I'm perplexed. I'm trying to put some type of pieces together. But I am truly grateful that I did find him. And we've had some discussions. I did have a relapse at 32. What do I mean by relapse? I'm not even sure that I put that in the book. So when I turned 32, I mean, prior to that, from 12 to 32, I never looked back, never asked him questions as far as why wasn't he there. He embraced me. I embraced him. The family embraced me. And it was kind of like I now have this extended family. When I turned 32, it's almost 20 years to the date, I started feeling some kind of way. I started thinking, wow, my mom's maiden name is Brookins. That's a very unique name. Any Brookins in the city of Chicago is related to me. So why didn't he seek me out? Why did I have to find him? How is it that all of his other children know about me? So that means you're talking about me, but you're not trying to find me.
Yeah.
I had all of that's when the resentment towards him came into play. And I did not speak to him for an entire year, did not receive any phone calls, did not open my door for him. He sent my daughter a Christmas card with a check in it, which I still have to this day. I never cashed it. And one of my sister cousins said, Stephanie, you're a woman of God. I know you're young and you're hurting, but you need to have a conversation with him. You need to ask him these questions. Why are you trying to handle these questions by yourself? I said, no, I'm handling them with me and God. She said, yeah, you, God, and your father needs to be a part of that equation. And I called him and we scheduled an appointment and we had lunch together. It was Shoney's at the time. It is now Portillo's on our corner, but it was, I think it was Shoney's or it was some type of a buffet.
No, it was
something.
Shooter. Yes, it was Shooters.
It was Shooters. And we were there for 6 hours talking and crying. And he shared with me that at 19, I was nervous. I was going to college. I had a girlfriend. I didn't know what having a child was. And I was only with your mom one time. So for me, immediately, I'm like, that ain't my kid. And so I had to put myself in his shoes at 19. How would I have felt at 19? What decision would I have made? If I were his mom, what would I have done? Would I have done the same thing? And so we talked about a lot of the details and he talked about where he was in life at that point. And it was shared with me that he did see me at second or third grade. He had rang our doorbell, not knowing we lived there selling vacuum cleaners, and found out that was our home. And he found out that my mom was married, living a happy life. And so he said, I said, well, why didn't you try to, reach out to me or anything? He said, well, it appeared that your mom was living a happy life and I didn't want to interfere. She said, all was well. So he had actually known where we were living. I think I was in second or third grade, he said, when he rang our doorbell, but I say, that is my best part of my story as well. I found my father. And I share that with a lot of my students because a lot of my students don't know who their dad is. A lot of my students have different last names, 4 or 5 kids in the family. They all have different last names, different fathers, etc. And when I share that story with them, they now know that Miss Roberts is a real person. She can relate to me because she has gone through what I've gone through. And there is hope because she found her father. And then they think like we're so super duper successful. I don't use the word successful. I use purposeful. I'm just walking in my purpose, the divine pieces that God placed. Success, if you want to say that, you can use your own words, but I'm working every day just to make it happen and to help other people through my story.
Beautiful. I'm happy that yours had a happy ending. I am. So that's actually a good segue into the next thing that I want to talk about. You serving, because in your book you talk about you being a servant, and I mean you had a whole list of things that you do and who you are to these people. You're always the one who everyone in your family calls on. Why? Because they know they can depend on you, and I know a lot of women who can relate to that.
Yes.
But I want you to talk before we go. I want you to speak to what it looks like when you are serving to a fault, because I felt like at times in here, Stephanie was serving to a fault. Like it you know, maybe we don't feel like serving can ever be a bad thing, but
Yeah.
sometimes we're just trying to be everything to everyone.
Gotta be
So
all to all people.
hmm so what does that mean to you, or what does that look like in your life? Have you ever felt like you've been a servant to a fault?
I would probably say yes. And now that I consider myself to be more mature in this thing we call life, the last 10 years I have created tremendous balance because I did feel like I had a lot of gifts and talents. I had the strong gift of helps and also serving others. But by the same token, I was spreading myself like peanut butter on bread, and I was becoming a jack of all trades, but a master of few of them. And so
Mhm.
I had to create some balance, and I had to learn how to say no. And saying no was not easy in the beginning, especially saying no in the church to my family. I would be wore out, girl. I'm serious. I would be wore out. But now I can say that I'm so liberated because sometimes we feel like we don't want to hurt other people's feelings. Or if we have the ability to do something, that we should step in and do that. I guarantee you, if we checked out of this world and checked out of this earth today, it still will keep moving and the job will still get
Mhm.
done. And I
Mhm.
had to learn to embrace that and understand that all things, although I may be able to do them, it's not meant for me to do it.
Mhm.
Some plant, some water, but God does the increase. And Stephanie, you don't have to be all things to all people. Try to keep the main thing the main
The
thing.
main thing. I love it. I love it. All right.
Absolutely.
So, Stephanie, one question that I like to ask everyone who comes down to the author's tea, because I believe the hashtag writers read. What is a book that has truly impacted your life, or that is just really memorable that you like to share?
Well, can I share this with you? Of course, the Bible is always there, and I need to do a better job because I have not been in my word as much as I need to be in my word. But there are a few books that I read every year. Now I'm kind of, one of them, just listening to them. But The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that is a book that I listen to now every year. And I've done so since I was 25, because I feel like oftentimes we can get involved in our work and then our work begins to take over us, just like my book. Allow yourself to command your day and not your day to command you. And so The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, bless his heart, he's gone on, has always been a book that has been near and dear to my heart that I read frequently, as well. I also read Who Moved My Cheese, and that's because change is inevitable.
Mhm.
We look around, we see different things, and before you know it, you're getting good at something, and now they've changed it, they've upgraded it, or it is now obsolete. And so I feel like we need to be able to embrace change and be okay with change. I will be honest, I love to support people in their book endeavors, and I try to buy everybody's book and try to support everybody's book, but oftentimes I don't get an opportunity to read their book in its
Mhm.
totality. So I piecemeal with a variety of different books throughout the year, and then piecing, a little piece here, a little piece there. Grace, I've been trying to embrace that, although I bought it months ago. But trying to take some great nuggets out of that book. And then I always take The Purpose Driven Life. because I look at books that are universal that you can use. Oftentimes you get different stories, and those stories can impact and create a huge change in your life. But I try to stick with those things that I can always go to for a variety of different areas and concerns in my life. But yeah, I got a stack of books, girl. I probably got about 25 books that I purchased in the last maybe 6 to 12 months, supporting my friends. I have all of your books, girl.
Do
yes,
you?
Yes, I do. I have
Oh my God.
I support my people because I
thank
believe
you.
that when you sow, and I don't buy everybody's book. Now, let me put that out there. I don't buy everybody's book.
Yeah, because now your inbox is gonna blow up. People gonna say, "Well, did you get my book?"
No, people, I just make a donation. But when I'm buying a book, I try to make sure I'm planting seed in good ground, because when I'm purchasing a book, that means I'm getting something in return that I'm going to apply to my life. And it has to be something that's parallel, that God is saying, this is going to help you. Yep, you need to get that book. Otherwise, I'll buy a t-shirt and I'll donate to whatever they got going on. But yeah, I do. I have all of your books. I have your journal. And then we were reading last year, I think there was another book. I probably need to pick that up, that I was walking through with you with a tribe with your tribe.
Oh, the 40-day Draw the Circle.
Yes.
Now, that's one of my favorite books. Now, when I tell you that's a book I have read, I think I've gone through the 40-day journey like 4 or 5 times now, and every time I take something, it has really revolutionized my prayer life.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Book, I love that book. Wow. Yes, well, I'm not surprised that you have a stack of books, because I do believe the hashtag writers read. The best writers are the best readers. You know that. You're in education.
Yes. And you're a lifelong reader.
Absolutely. All right, Stephanie. Well, tell us where we can purchase your books, Pieces of a Poet, and your other book. I have it here, The ABCs of Commanding Your Day. How can we publish your book? How can we publish your book, and how can we connect with you? And if you have anything exciting coming up, because I know you do.
Yes, you can purchase my books via online at openyourmindllc@gmail.com, openyourmindllc .wix.com/visions, openyourmindllc@wix.com/visions, or on my Facebook page. I'm not trying to make it rich off of selling books. I'm just trying to help people. And although we're talking about Pieces of a Poet, I am going to put this plug in for the ABCs of Commanding Your Day. This is a book I've really been trying to encourage people, because it's something you can put in your purse, put it in your back pocket, and there are 26 powerful nuggets to encourage you throughout your day. I have given away about 38, I think it's 38 today, copies in the airport now that I'm traveling and training teachers, just being a blessing to people. And as a result of giving out those 38 books, I just ordered more. I sold 96 books as a result of giving away 38 books. People were inboxing me, looking my number up on Southwest and calling. I'm like, how'd you get my phone number? Well, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but you gave me a book at the airport. I work for Southwest. I'm like, girl, you gotta watch yourself doing that. But yes, and I do have a fantastic event that's coming up next Thursday, 1 week from today. I am actually partnering with Girls in the Hood mentoring organization, which is in the Inglewood community. And we are doing a premiere private showing of the movie Little at Marcus Theater in Chicago Heights next Thursday at 7 p.m. Tickets are $20, which includes admission, a 48-ounce bag of popcorn, and a 20-ounce drink. So please come out. These funds are all going towards Girls in the Hood and their Degrees Before Diapers initiative. They've had it for a few years now. So if you are not doing anything next Thursday, well, first of all, get your ticket. So go on Facebook or go on my Facebook page at Stephanie A. Roberts or Open Your Mind LLC and purchase your tickets through Eventbrite, PayPal, Quick Pay, Zelle. All proceeds are going towards Girls in the Hood and their Degrees Before Diapers initiative. It's going to be a great time. We're going to get to see the movie before it really launches on Friday. It's a great movie. I selected that movie because it shows the empowerment of young girls and what they can do. The writer is only 14 years old. So supporting in a big way. The tickets are only $20. You pay $20 to get in. Anyway, probably paid $20 for a pop and some nachos. So $20 for admission, plus you get popcorn. It's going to be a great evening. So please come out and support. We have purchased the entire theater. It's only 48 seats. I think we've sold 32 tickets. I haven't been pushing it, but I'm going to after we get offline. But that's my next event. And then coming up in May, before I get off, the Mega Youth Workshop series, where I am empowering young people with motivation, education, helping them to generate and activate what is within them with the academic tools, financial tools, preparing them for high school, those who are going to high school, and really, really preparing those who are going to college to determine if a 2-year trade school, 4-year university is what they really are destined to do right now at this stage, or do you have other gifts that you're starting up? So the Mega Youth Workshop in May, and then of course next Thursday, the 11th of April at the Marcus Theater. Now you can't show up at the Marcus Theater and think you're gonna get in. You got to get your tickets before then. Got to get your tickets before then. And they're going, I only got 48, so it's 32. I think I've sold 32 already. So reach out to me. Call me, beat me if you want to reach me. 773-972-4417.
Wonderful. Well, look, Stephanie, you're so amazing. You have so many amazing things going on. Of course, I'm going to be out of town. I told you, every time you do something, I am out of town somewhere, but
that's all right. You're great, awesome, and you're helping women and people throughout the world as well, helping them write those books, and they're birthing their dreams into words on a page. So no, we all have our vineyard. So I totally understand. But get a ticket and donate it to someone else.
Yes, I'll do just that. I'll donate a ticket. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for coming down to the Author's Tea. Thank you for your patience as we work through our technical difficulties. Absolutely. I appreciate you. I appreciate your transparency and your wisdom. And I wish you nothing but blessings on your journey. So thank you so much. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Author's Tea. You guys know I am ecstatic to bring before you all of the women that I know and let them spill the tea on their books and things. I will be back in 2 Thursdays, which is what's the date? April the 18th, and I'll be back with Raylan Perham, and her book is From One Girl to Another, Daughters of Destiny. So we'll see you in 2 weeks, and until next time, I'm Kristen R. Harris, and I'm out. Bye.
Thank you so much. Love you, Kristen.
I love you too.